Konnichiwa. So my name is Paul Bennett. This is how you can have a conversation with me, and I would love to have a conversation with you. So there'll be many of us today on Twitter, so let's continue that conversation. I am here from IDEO. I'm here with 3 of my colleagues, and thank you so much for inviting us. It's been an incredibly inspiring day. We opened our Tokyo office a few weeks before the earthquake, and we are determined and excited about this very important moment in Japanese history and seeing how we can contribute to the notion of helping design recovery. So that's what I want to talk about today, is the idea of designing recovery. I wrote a new talk for this completely from scratch this week because I've been very inspired. I've been in Tokyo all week, so I wanted to write something that felt sort of metaphorical. So I want to tell you a story. The story is of 4 animals. So the animals are the canary, the sea otter, the wild goose, and finally, the frog. So each one of these plays an important sort of metaphorical role in the design of recovery. So let's start. Let's start with the canary. My family is from the north of England. We have had many generations of us from a very industrial part of the north of England. This here is my great-grandfather. My great-grandfather was a coal miner. He dug coal out of many, many mines from thousands of meters below the ocean. And in those days, in the turn of the century, miners used to take canaries with them down in the mine. It's a canary in a cage here. The canary was an incredibly important part of the mining process. It was a partner to the miner. The canary was a sentinel. It was an animal that helped warn the miner. So if there was toxic gases or if there was a problem in the air, the canary would chirp and it would tell the miner that danger was coming. So there's a popular phrase in the UK, I hope it translates here to Japanese. My colleague has been working very hard this week to help me translate, which is the phrase, canary in a coal mine. So my first theory is that the role of the sentinel is incredibly important because the sentinel is vital in helping other people be safe. So I am conjecturing that Japan is the canary in the global coal mine, and that Japan's role is to help us all be safe. And what do I mean by that? I think it's not about being victims, it's about becoming teachers. And there's been so many inspiring stories that I've heard on the stage today from people who I've learned so much from already in one day. People whose own personal story has taught me something about humanity, about the way that the world works, about the way that people work, the power of human kindness. So I think the notion of Japan as a teacher is very powerful right now. So design is very much about that. Design is an act of listening, and design is an act of learning. That is what we do all day. We learn and we listen to people, and we take that as inspiration. So learning from others' experiences, as we've done today, is a very profound act to me. It's an act of design. So I think we have all been designing today by listening to one another. So I think we have a lot to learn from Japan. And I'm very inspired by what I'm seeing. The stories that are coming out of Japan recently have been incredibly inspiring to me. So they include, and we've heard much about this today, the notion of disaster preparedness, how you guys are getting ready and how you guys are preparing and how you're forewarning each other is very inspiring to see. The notion of how the elderly and the aging population have both stepped forward and been cared for in an incredibly respectful way. I don't know this gentleman's name, but I know that he was one of the engineers that talked about going back into the reactor and helping create recovery there. I thought that was very inspiring. I've always loved this campaign, Cool Biz. I saw this years ago, and it's our friends at Hacker Hodo that created this. I think it's a fantastic campaign. So the notion of energy management and how you can help teach the world about energy in the future is something that I think we're all looking to you for inspiration. So I have 4 questions I want to ask from the stage today, and the first question is this. How can Japan become the teacher of dignified recovery? Because I use this word dignity, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean in a second, because I think dignity is what Japan is showing the world right now. And it's an incredibly inspiring act for the rest of us to behold. When I contrast Katrina, Hurricane Katrina in America, which became an absolute mess, and there was military involved, and people's lives were upturned, or the recent riots in the UK, which I have to say made me sort of ashamed to be English, because the way that the system broke down so quickly, versus this picture here from Japan 1 month after the disaster, when the baseball teams got together and had a baseball match and paid respect to one another. That's such an inspiring picture to me. I think that's fantastic. The second thing I want to talk about is the sea otter. Here's a picture of 2 sea otters holding hands. Nice, right? Sea otters are incredibly important animals in the ecosystem. Biologists talk a lot about sea otters. Why? Because sea otters are what are referred to as a keystone species. And I will explain what a keystone species is. They're very, very important. A keystone species is one that comes into new areas and creates structure and growth for new life to move in. So sea otters go into the areas of the ocean that are unmanned or uncharted, and they help create a forest of kelp there. They mine the kelp, and other animals come in. So they create new structure and new life. So by going in alone, pioneering alone, they actually bring room in and encourage others to follow them. So I would argue that sea otters are like designers. That's what we do as designers. We go into new areas, we explore new things, we discover new possibilities, and it is our role as designers to bring other people in, to include other people. So therefore, I think design is very much an act of making stuff happen, of building. We've heard a lot of conversation today on this stage about people making things happen, about prototyping, about experimenting, about making things quickly, about making things with your hands. It isn't about making things complicated, it's about making things simple, and it's about making things soon. In a time of crisis, you need to act, and you need to act immediately. And design is very much about that. This is a project we've recently finished designing a hotel where we built the entire hotel out of cardboard in prototype form. So it's about building new tools, new systems, and new solutions. So Japan needs to nurture its sea otters, and I don't just mean the animals, I mean the individuals, I mean the designers, the people who are going out there pioneering and creating new opportunities so that other people can follow. And again, the entrepreneurs, we've seen lots of stories today about entrepreneurs. I'm sure we've all heard this story. I love this, I found this super inspiring. The fishermen who can't obviously fish any longer, who are now making hammocks in the same technique that they made their fishing nets and selling them on the internet. We want to buy these hammocks for our offices. We found this very inspiring. And their wives in another town who are making misanga bracelets, again, just because they like the act of working. I read somewhere, one of the women said, this is not about purely making money. Working puts a smile on our face. So again, I found this picture incredibly inspiring. It's also about the farmers who are working very hard to let everybody know that their vegetables are coming from a certain part of the country. And it's also about the consumers that are working very hard to help them by buying their products. So these people are in partnership working together to create a new economy. It's also about the builders, the people who've gone and cleared the rubble, and the people who are building these amazingly inspiring structures for people. This is all about creating a form of dignity for people and privacy. We've seen examples of this on stage already today. Sort of wonderful people that are building these new systems for other people. I thought this was lovely. Again, a prototype built in cardboard of a new housing structure for people. gentleman here who's creating Arcade, and again, the whole sort of bringing together of architecture and creating new structures and new societies. And again, I've read this story several times about the notion of planting sunflower seeds and people saying that sunflowers help irradiate a soil. So the notion of this guy as a designer is very important. So he's promoting a form of design by saying sunflowers can help create better soil, but they're also a happy flower, and they bring happiness to people. That's an act of design. And we've seen this already today, so I won't refer to this much, but I thought this project was incredibly inspiring, the Cotton Project, again, as we saw the speaker earlier say, about helping create a new economy, a new form of value for people, and about giving people a form of hope. So my second question is this, is how can Japan set an example in designing new ecosystems of keystone businesses and communities? What are the sea otters of Japan, the new businesses, the pioneers, the new opportunities that can be created? Let's talk about geese. Geese are very interesting animals. First thing to know about geese is they're never alone. Geese are part of a flock. They travel together. They fly together. Geese are interdependent. They work together as a team. They're very interesting the way they work. Here's 3 facts about that. First fact is, by flapping their wings together, each bird creates uplift for the others. So each bird creates a draft that the others can follow in, which is a really interesting fact. When the lead goose, this is very interesting, when the lead goose, the goose that is leading, gets tired, it goes back into the flock and it allows another goose to take its lead. The gentleman this morning that spoke from Google, I thought was very inspiring, where he talked about how his colleagues had all rotated leadership positions so they'd had more value more quickly together. That's exactly what the geese do. The geese in the back honk to motivate the geese in the front to keep going. So the geese at the back goes, "Meow," and the other geese at the front hear it, and that motivates them to keep leading, which is quite a nice idea. So geese are collaborators. Geese are fundamentally collaborative animals. Design is like geese. Design is a collaborative act. It's about working together as a team, everybody flapping their wings and creating uplift for the others. So by working in a team like this, design co-creates and it encourages interdependence. This is one of our teams working together, creating a solution together. People share leadership, and they allow each other to take the turn. So whether they're junior or senior, we all work together as a unit to try and create the best value for the client. So my second or third point is this, that Japan is flying in a flock with the rest of the world. And the point I want to make is this, we're all honking so that you can keep going. The rest of the world is behind you and supporting you and helping you go forward. So my third point is this, is how can you collaborate to co-create this new society with the rest of us, with the rest of the world? Last one, the frog. None of us want to be frogs. I'm going to tell you why. I saw the Japanese ambassador to Singapore speak last week in Singapore. He told this story. I thought it was fantastic, so I'm going to give him credit for this. So here's a true story. To boil a frog, to eat it, you start by putting it in a pan of cold water. As the water slowly heats up, the frog stays in the pan. Why? Because it's too lazy to jump. What do you end up with? There's a phrase, I hope this is translated, called boiled frog syndrome, which is the frog eventually dies and we all get to eat it. The role of the frog, if I was trying to be positive about this, is that it's a messenger. The frog is an important part of this. The message for us, I think, is loud and clear. And that's the water, literally and metaphorically, is heating up. So it's time for us all to collectively get out of the pan. Huh? So I think of design as two things, and I often talk about it as two things. Design is an optimistic act. It's about belief that change is possible. It's also a pragmatic act. It's about doing something about that belief. So it's very important these two things work together, optimism and pragmatism. So when we work, here's a project we recently finished in Ghana, looking at sanitation for the citizens of Ghana. So rather than discuss what sanitation can mean forever, we built some prototype toilets here in a village in Ghana so that we could get feedback. So again, the notion of making something real is and tangible is very important. Second point is that design is about believing in creating a better future, and it is about acting upon it now. And I think that's the message that I've heard all day today, and the message that perhaps I want to reinforce, that what I'm seeing in this room is a belief that a better future is now about to happen for Japan. But the question is, how do we act upon it, and how do we act upon it immediately? So for us, we created a system, we created a platform, an open innovation platform called Open IDEO, which is where anybody from anywhere in the world can contribute to problems for social good. And people have contributed from all over the world. The Ghana project that I just described started as an Open IDEO project. How can we improve sanitation and better manage human waste in low-income urban communities? And actually, this gentleman here, if you can just click forward one more time, guys. This gentleman here is from Brasilia in Brazil, and here he is creating a portable toilet idea for Ghana, a toilet and a bike combined. It's lovely. We had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of solutions that came all over the world. So two things are nice about this. One is that you have cross-cultural sharing, but also you have this dialogue between places that's bringing these sort of problems and solutions together. So I'm sort of saying this live on stage, and my colleagues will kill me, but I am determined that we get something like this to happen in Japan. I think a Japanese version of Open IDEO will be very, very powerful, and we're very excited to try and figure out how to do that. So watch this space. A colleague of mine, Haiyan Zhang, in reaction to the earthquake, actually created her own site here where she crowdsourced radiation readings from all over the region. And now, I think literally in a few weeks, she's had, click, please. Oh, God. Can you go back, please? She's had 500,000 responses from almost, I think, 150 countries. So the notion of getting out of the pan before it's too late, I think, is collectively all of our goal. And so how do we start to do that? So to the sort of end, final message for you all is, can recovery be designed? And my answer is this, which is yes. Because I've watched half a dozen presentations, if not more today, of examples where it already is being designed by people in this room. And so I'm very excited and inspired to see what everybody is doing, and recovery is already well underway in Japan. It has a long way to go, but it's exciting to see how it's already emerging. And to final thought, this is not a political conversation. That, to me, is a scapegoat. This is not about politics, and it's not about government. I don't understand politics. I don't understand government. So this is not about that aspect of it. To me, as I've seen all day today, this is about individuals and networks working together to create tremendous value. And we've seen that over and over again today. So this is about, in the way that the Canary acted, this is about teaching and learning. In the way that the sea otter taught us, it's about building and prototyping. As the wild geese taught us, it's about sharing and collaborating. And hopefully, like the frog, it's about believing and leaping. So my last question is this, is how can Japan become the world leader in citizen-designed recovery? And I think, again, my feeling from watching today is that you're already well on the way. So I'm very excited to see if we can help contribute to that. So thank you very much.